there's one question that I've been getting a lot lately, it's what is this El Nino going to do in North Texas, and what in the world is this super El Nino term that we're hearing from the Japanese? Well, first I want to talk about what El Nino is. So you have these trade winds that move westward in the South Pacific here, and when an El Nino event occurs, what you do is you actually kind of cut down on those winds and they weaken a little bit. Usually those winds will push warmer temperatures westward. Well, when you have weaker winds, that warm temperature, that warm air, and frankly the warmer water temperatures don't displace as much. How does that affect North Texas? Well, it pulls the jet stream downward, and when it pulls it farther south, and if we get a stronger year, this may actually be further south than this. What happens is you get those storm systems that move along that jet stream, so you have a wetter condition over North Texas, and usually cooler as well, because you're able to pull in more cool air, and especially on the north side of that jet stream. So when the jet stream is moving southward, you're going to get more of that cool air on the north side of it, and those storms, yes, bring more showers and thunderstorms. So let's take a look at what generally that means. It means, number one, we get our greatest impact in late fall and winter. So we're having really hot temperatures right now, and some are asking me if that is an effect of El Nino, and it could be. There sometimes is an impact on the summer in El Nino in North Texas, but it's not really that measurable compared to the late fall and winter. In fact, there's a greater impact in Japan. We'll talk about that in a moment. But wetter, cooler weather generally is what we're looking at. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get a big ice storm, but we'll cover that in a moment too. So what's this super El Nino term that we keep hearing about? It's a term used by the Japanese Meteorological Agency, one of the reports that they put out recently, and really it was referring to things on their end where they are seeing record heat waves in Japan. So for them, they are experiencing this super El Nino, and I can't ever find if there's any other kind of source for that term. It's one of these things that in all the reports you see, it's all in air quotes or quotations rather, and it's just not one of these things that they're really putting a lot of emphasis on. It's really just kind of making the point that they have those heat waves in Japan, and you can see heat waves in East Asia and in the Middle East as well. So very hot temperatures there. When you look at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, that's the meteorological kind of overlord organization, not overlord, I shouldn't say that, but the general organization, governmental organization here in the United States that handles the weather here, and they say there's a 90% chance that El Nino continues into the late fall and winter, and that's kind of what we've been looking at. That's what the JMA says as well. They say there's a 20% chance, though, a 1 in 5, that moderate to strong intensity of El Nino conditions will happen, and that could rival the years of 1997 to 98 and 2015 to 2016, those fall and winter months. Now, it's a 20% chance that we will see a moderate to strong intensity of those El Nino conditions, but what does that actually mean for our area? So I want to touch on a couple of things. Does a winter storm, especially in these more intense years, is it look more likely? Now here's the winter of 1997 to 98. That's one of those 2 years they said was more intense. We had 0 record-breaking low temperatures at DFW. I'm just using DFW as a reference because it's an easier single point to grab with more reliable records going farther back. Lowest observed temperature was 23 degrees, so not terribly cold, not anything compared to the big storm we had back in 2021, I believe, in February, which, by the way, might I mention to you, that was a La Nina year, and actually overall that winter was pretty mild, except for that one event, that couple of weeks, where it was terribly cold across our area. Now, we did have record cumulative precipitation accumulation. Now, that's accumulation that we've had from that point going forward. We did have a record there from December 21st to January 20th. After that, the records caught up, but we did have the wetter side of El Nino there. Now let's go to 2015 to 2016. 0 record-breaking low temperatures again that year, and the lowest observed temperature at DFW was 27 degrees, so not extremely cold there, but again, we did have record cumulative precipitation accumulation observed 11/1 to 229 was a leap year there. So we have seen the wetter side, but it seems like the cooler side of El Nino doesn't really manifest that much. it really comes down to the fact that most ice storms and snowstorms we see here in North Texas are more they're more acute events. They're more depending on what storm comes through. It doesn't really have a tie to a larger pattern or a larger factor. Now, 2015 to 2016, that has meaning here in north central Texas. Back in December of 2015, and you'll see 2016 here, this should be 2015. So back in December of 2015, we had those 12 tornadoes in north central Texas, which included the one here in Ellis County that moved up into southern Dallas County. Now, also, back in December 23rd of 2002, another El Nino year, we had tornadoes in central Texas, and we also had that hailstorm in Waxahachie. In fact, there's footage here of me at the ripe young age of 11 years old giving a report about all the hail that fell in the back of my parents' house and all the lightning behind me as well. So there started to be a trend here. What happens with El Nino and severe weather in North Texas? So here's what I looked at. December tornadoes in North Texas since 1950, which is kind of where that tornado climatology starts as far as the records that I was looking at. 1967, 68, 71, 73, 84, 87, 99, 2002, 2006, 2008, 15, 20, and 22. Now, you've heard me talk on this channel about the fact that, yes, we do tend to have some severe weather in December. A lot of that is just the fact that we're going from fall into winter, and December is kind of our transition month. Well, here's what I found. Out of those 13 events, 7 of those, and in fact 7 of the last 10, had tornadoes in December that were tied to an El Nino event. I shouldn't say tied to, happened during an El Nino event. Now, I've looked online and there's been some nationwide discussion about whether El Nino impacts tornado numbers in December. And the nationwide conclusion was that there's not enough evidence really to point to a surefire tie. So that's true, but these numbers were hard for me to deny. Now, 2020 and 2022, we had tornadoes in December in north central Texas, and those were not El Nino years. So this isn't saying that it only happens during an El Nino year, but it definitely appears to be more likely. Now, does this mean that we are guaranteed severe weather and tornadoes in December because this is an El Nino year? No. Does this mean that tornadoes only occur in December during an El Nino year? Absolutely not. So this is not something that I'm going to use to forecast, nor is it something I'm going to use to make some groundbreaking conclusion, but the numbers were hard to deny. So I hope this helped you to kind of understand what El Nino has looked like in the past and maybe get a picture of what El Nino will look like coming up. The cold side, there's just no evidence to suggest that we get record temperatures, record cold temperatures in the winter in North Texas, but we do get more rain, which right now, during the middle of the summer when things are drying out, definitely sounds good. And yes, there does seem to be some kind of a trend with December tornadoes, or at least December severe weather and El Nino years, but again, we can't use that to say anything certain in our area. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped you better understand El Nino and its impacts in North Texas. If you have questions about El Nino or questions in general that you would like to see answered on this series, please let me know in the comments below or send us a private message. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.